What George often does is connect his characters to the major events that shaped the world. The Battle of the Trident, for example, was when Robert's rebellion came to conclusion. Its consequences brought a new king to the world and ended the long reign of the Targaryens. Many of the major characters in the story are somehow linked to this event, some connected to it in minor ways while others go deep. Jaime Lannister, for instance, slew King Aerys and saved thousands in the process. It wasn't only a major point in Jaime's life, but also in the greater scheme of things. Robert became the king, Eddard went to get his sister, Dany, and her brother were smuggled away, and technically most of the storylines in the main books were brought about in that very moment. Even Jon Snow has his roots in this event, which HBO went as far as to confirm. This technique, which I call historical link, opens George R. R. Martin to many windows to teach the reader about his world and to connect the characters, achieving remarkable cohesion. He often has his characters, especially the older ones who were alive at the time, recall the event. In the case of younger characters who were not around at the time, such as Dany, he has them picture what the event might have been like from the stories they've heard. As a consequence, he is able to sneak in the names of locations and go as far as to explain the geographical importance. I've caught him doing this countless times, but one of my favorite is the 10th paragraph in Dany's first ever chapter.
Yet sometimes Dany would picture the way it had been. So often had her brother told her the stories. The midnight flight to Dragonstone, moonlight shimmering on the ship's black sails, her brother Rhaegar battling the usurper in the bloody waters of the Trident and dying for the woman he loved. The sack of King's Landing, by the ones Viserys called the usurper's dogs, the Lords Lannister and Stark, Princess Elia of Dorne pleading for mercy as Rhaegar's heir was ripped from her breast and murdered before her eyes, the polished skulls of the last dragons staring down sightlessly from the walls of the throne room, while the Kingslayer opened father's throat with a golden sword.
Let's see how many different parties in the story I mentioned in this 116-word paragraph. First is her brother, which used to tell her stories, implying the brotherly bond,
even though he's trying to sell her.
The second one is Dragonstone, which he has already explained prior. Then he goes on to link Rhaegar to Dany, mentioning he is her brother battling for survival at the waters of the Trident. Because he mentioned Rhaegar's name, he gets to sneak in his motives as well.
I swear George goes deep.
Anyhow, he mentions King's Landing, Lord Stark, and Princess Elia, who is from Dorne, literally from Essos to Westeros and to the south of Westeros. He also mentions the feeble end of the dragons and the butter of this paragraph, Jaime Lannister, the Kingslayer. Just a paragraph later, he employs the same historic link to accomplish in-story world building. He does this across the books and the tactic never grows old for some reason. The second strategy is jumping off, which he doesn't do often but really works wonders and is the most fun because there are no points of view restrictions placed on him. This jumping off technique is activated by two things. First is dialogue and second is description. Whenever a character mentions a place, whether it be for a joke or to discuss a strategy, George goes on a tangent and talks about the place. Most of the time it's brief, but sometimes it can reach hundreds of words. The second one is by description. Clothes, food, whatever a character has and is doing and is also specific to a certain house can act as a trigger.
That was a mouthful.
Though he often employs it with caution, hooking the audience first and getting them to speculate before revealing whatever the item is. You don't have to go far to find traces of this technique. The first chapter after the prologue has 5 instances where George jumps off from a dialogue or a small note of description to lace the world with detail. This makes it fun rather than taxing word vomit.
The morning had dawned clear and cold, with a crispness that hinted at the end of summer. They set forth at daybreak to see a man beheaded, 20 in all, and Bran rode among them, nervous with excitement. This was the first time he had been deemed old enough to go with his lord father and his brothers to see the king's justice done.
So what George does is hook the audience with an intriguing detail about the world, the man getting beheaded, and then use that detail to jump off into other more important things. Here's how he jumps off from the information he sets up to further build the world.
It was the 9th year of summer and the 7th of Bran's life. The man had been taken outside a small holdfast in the hills. Robb thought he was a wildling, his sword sworn to Mance Rayder, the king beyond the wall.
He hooks you with the beheading detail, then tells you what Rob had thought of the man, and then jumps off from that point to talk about Mens Raider, the king beyond the wall. He is literally zipping from Winterfell to beyond the wall in a matter of sentences. The same goes for the summer bit. Earlier he mentions that summer is coming to an end, and then he jumps off from that point to strike the reader with the fantastical idea of a 9-year summer. He employs the same tactic a sentence later.
It made Bran's skin prickle to think of it. He remembered the hearth tales old Nan told them.
The wildlings were cruel men, she said, slavers and slayers and thieves. They consorted with giants and ghouls, stole girl children in the dead of night and drank blood from polished horns, and their women lay with the others in the long night to sire terrible half-human children.
He makes it look so easy. Believe me, I've tried it. It's not that easy. Witty dialogue. The third method George employs to achieve in-story world building is through witty dialogue. This is the most common method by far, which isn't surprising to be honest, given that so many of his characters are savvy little bastards. In my eyes, this is the best method because as a reader, I get to both have fun and learn about the world. As the old saying goes, 2 birds with 1 stone. The TV show, though altered a little, it still does this to an impressive result.
Never expected to have any real power. So when my father named me acting hand...
You're quite good at being hand, you know. John Arryn and Ned Stark were good men. Honorable men. But they disdained the game and those who played. You enjoy the game.
I do. Last thing I expected.
And you play it well.
I like to keep playing it. If Stannis breaches the gates, the game is over.
They say he burns his enemies alive to honor the Lord of Light.
The Lord of Light wants his enemies burnt. The drowned god wants them drowned. Why are all the gods such vicious cunts? Where is the god of tits and wine?
In the Summer Isles, they worship the fertility goddess with 16 teats.
We should sail there immediately.
In all the 4 books, George employs this tactic most in A Dance with Dragons. Listen.
The Silver Queen is gone, the Catcher's master told him. She flew away upon her dragon beyond the Dothraki Sea. Where is this Dothraki Sea? He demanded. I will sail the Arn fleet across it and find the Queen wherever she may be. The fisherman laughed aloud. That would be a sight worth seeing. The Dothraki Sea is made of grass, fool.
The 4th way George does in story world building is through differing cultures, clothes, commonalities, and, most important, mentalities. Honor and bravery, for example, are most associated with House Stark and Baratheon, while bastards and infidelities are more in line with the Dornish. The Lannisters are also savvy politicians.
What is the meaning of this?
I don't like his beard.
What? Oh, no.
Even the sigils of different houses have different animals. This communicates theme. Direwolves or wolves in general need to stick together in packs to survive, which is the state of everyone in the north given that they have to stand by each other and survive the winds of winter. This is why also you don't see many betrayals among the Starks while the Lannisters slaughter each other. Even different sayings work. House Stark goes by
Winter is coming.
The Lannisters go by
Hear me roar.
The Targaryens go by
Fire and blood.
The Baratheons go by
Ours is the fury.
All of these mottos say a lot about the houses. Winter is Coming says that the Starks are more family and survival oriented. Hugh talks about showing off, which is more in line with how they present themselves. Ours is the Fury is a more war-oriented mentality, which speaks volumes if you have ever looked into Robert's eyes. So by having different cultures and giving the various inhabitants of his world opposing mentalities, he gets to do 2 things: create natural conflict as well as gain many opportunities to build the world and emphasize its various cultures. The 5th is to have children. This one is most common in Arya's as well as Bran's chapters, but I won't delve in any more detail because of how this isn't that unique. It's sprinkled all over sci-fi and fantasy books. So that's it for this video. As always, hit the subscribe button. I do analysis like this about the process of writing stories all the time. In the meanwhile, I will leave you with bonus clips. Enjoy.
My family is rich. We have gold, lots of gold. I'm prepared to give you lots of gold. Now go! Well, I don't have it here. Now go! Fuck off.
The Lannister always pays his debts.
What about you, my lord? What's the strangest thing you've eaten?
Do Dornish girls count?
Still can't believe you're going. It's ridiculous, even for you.
Where's your sense of wonder? The greatest structure ever built, the intrepid men of the Night's Watch, the wintry abode of the White Walkers.
Tell me you're not thinking of taking the Black.
And go celibate? The whores would go begging from dawn to Casterly Rock. No, I just want to stand on top of the wall and piss off the edge of the world.